All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Ed, and this is the Suburban Saturn. So today we're going to review the long-awaited KARMN app. And for those of you who are not familiar with this channel, KARMN is basically an application I've been developing that expands upon a previous project, Aurelius, which was an AI-powered civic tool of sorts. Think of it as like a Reddit where the public can go ahead and write down their thoughts, and then an LLM can aggregate all those thoughts and express a general sentiment or general feeling. So KARMN basically is an audience-targeted version of that, where my particular audience that I'm targeting are women between the ages of 18 to 39 for a wellness diary application that tracks menstrual cycles and uses an AI to gather insights and identify patterns and report them back to the individual user. So in today's episode, I'm finally going to be revealing a prototype of KARMN, what I have developed thus far, my methodology to get to this point, and where I'm going after this. So it will be different in the sense that very shortly I will be moving over to my computer and showing you all a slide deck. Most wellness apps say they want to help you understand yourself, but a lot of them feel like they're actually helping themselves understand you. They collect your habits, your moods, your body, your routines, your attention, and somewhere along the way, the user stops feeling like a person and starts feeling like a pattern to be monetized. That tension sat in the background of this project the entire time, because the product I designed, KARMN, is still a wellness app. It still uses AI, it still asks for emotional and behavioral input. But the question I kept coming back to was, what would it look like to build this kind of a system without turning the user into the product? What would it look like to design something more intimate, more reflective, and a little more humane? That became the foundation of KARMN, an AI-powered intimate wellness companion designed to help users journal, reflect, track patterns, and receive gentle insights from their own entries over time. And what started as a class capstone pretty quickly became something more interesting than an assignment. It became a real design question I wanted to keep building on. So in this presentation, I'm going to walk through the concept, the research, the prototype, the philosophy behind it, and what I learned while building it. So yeah, I'll see you all over at the computer, and thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. This project is called KARMN. KARMN is an AI-powered virtual assistant chatbot for intimate wellness reflection. At a practical level, it combines journaling, mood and symptom tracking, and AI-generated pattern insight. At a philosophical level, it asks whether we can design reflective wellness systems that feel private, supportive, and emotionally intelligent rather than extractive. You can think of it as part wellness companion, part reflective diary, part insight engine, hopefully not part surveillance machine. One of the main ideas behind KARMN is what I think of as a counter-infrastructure approach. A lot of digital health and wellness products are built around behavioral extraction. They want your habits, your signals, and your emotional patterns and your attention, often in ways that are invisible to the user. So KARMN imagines a different relationship. The idea is to use strong tools, including AI, in the service of the public rather than in service of productizing the user. So the design question became, how do I create a system that helps people know themselves better without making them feel watched, flattened, or sold back to themselves? That philosophy shaped the product from the beginning, but I still needed to create something that provided value and define what the product actually was. So at its core, KARMN is an AI-assisted diary with wellness tracking capabilities. The main user journey is simple. The user records a reflection, they optionally tag a mood and bodily sensation, they ask the assistant a question, and then the system returns a gentle insight based on their own saved entries. So this is not meant to be a medical device, and it's not trying to be a therapist. It's closer to an intimate reflection layer that helps users identify recurring emotional and behavioral patterns over time. It's basically asking, what if your journal could notice something with you, not just store things for you? So AI definitely helped a major role in how this project came together, because it helped me rapidly explore visual directions, shape prompts, generate companion assets, refine interaction flows, and organize the research and narrative. It acted as a kind of design co-pilot, but only when I gave it strong direction. One of the biggest lessons for me was that AI is excellent at acceleration, but not at restraint. It can generate 10 possibilities very quickly. The harder work is choosing which one deserves to exist. That became especially important as the project kept expanding in my head faster than it could responsibly expand in the prototype. So, to keep it grounded, I have to get more specific about who this was actually for. And this led to the discovery and target users. So a few insights mattered most. First, users often separate journaling from wellness tracking, even though they think across both naturally. Second, women still prefer physical journals over digital journaling apps because physical journaling feels more intimate, more personal, and less like data entry. Third, AI is already being used informally for emotional processing. People are already asking systems to help them interpret their own thoughts and feelings. So KARMN is really responding to a behavior that already exists. It's just trying to make that behavior more coherent, more private, and better designed. So this led me to competitive research and reference patterns. I looked into products like Stardust, Apple Health, Apple Journal, Aura, CoStar. Each one offered something useful. Stardust showed how emotional framing can make a wellness experience feel expressive rather than clinical. Apple Health showed information clarity and grouping. CoStar showed how tone and visual identity can create a distinctive emotional world. What I wanted to borrow was warmth, clarity, and strong visual identity. What I wanted to avoid was a cold enterprise feel, generic chatbot energy, and the sense that the product knew too much while caring too little. I was basically trying to avoid building a wellness app that feels like HR discovered moon phases and astrology for the very first time. And so that basically led the visual system and brand direction. And I borrowed, I guess I took some heuristics from that because the visual system for KARMN is built around a dark plum and midnight tones, soft gradients, serif headlines, rounded cards, and custom assistant characters. The goal was to make the experience feel intimate and magical and emotionally soft without becoming decorative for its own sake. I wanted it to feel like a ritual space rather than a dashboard. And a lot of these UIs, especially from Stardust and CoStar, really helped with creating that feel. They nailed that kind of aesthetic, feminine feel. So yeah, I kind of really was inspired from these guys, and the companion character that I created kind of helped anchored the little lavender princesses and all that. This helped anchored the brand and give it the assistant flow a more personal face. It turns the AI interaction from a generic tool into something a little more memorable and emotionally legible. So once the visual language was in place, I built the prototype around one focus story. So product story, home screen. The prototype centers on a very simple 6-screen flow. The home screen gives the user 3 main choices: reflect, ask assistant, or view insights. That simplicity was intentional. I wanted the product promise to be immediately understandable. You can capture something, ask something, or review something. Rather than overload the interface, I tried to keep the home screen calm and legible so that the user feels invited rather than managed. From there, the first major branch is the reflective flow. The reflection screen is okay. So here we can very quickly just look at the 6-screen journey from the daily entry: home, reflect, assistant, ask, insights. Basically, this is what the whole prototype is right here. And I will walk through it live at the end of this particular slide deck. But for now, this is the entirety of the prototype flow. As I mentioned earlier, my approach to KARMN will be very different to this. This was useful insofar as making me realize what I actually needed to build. And getting here took a while. And even though it seems like it's going to be rather useless because I'm scrapping the majority of the initial approach to KARMN, It's giving birth to something way more coherent, way more valuable, and something I think more practical and easier to expand upon. So more to come on that in future videos, but for now, this is the current flow for the prototype that we are going to review later. Before we get to the end of this, I wanted to just quickly highlight the centerpiece of this particular prototype, which is the reflection screen, because the reflection screen is the emotional center of the product. The user can choose a mood state, write a short freeform entry, and optionally tag physical sensations. The structured inputs help later pattern recognition, but the free text area remains the central piece because journaling is still the heart of the experience. That's the behavior we're trying to leverage. That's what matters, I suppose. That's the only reason why KARMN is even useful, because it can analyze, it can provide you context to you based on all the things you've been reflecting on in ways that maybe it's harder for you to make the connections because maybe you don't have the time to read back the entirety of your work. In case we're moving on to the assistant here, which is the other main feature, I suppose. Once the user has saved reflections, the assistant flow becomes meaningful because the assistant is designed to help the user ask a question about their own recent patterns, not to replace journaling and not to become a life coach with suspicious confidence. No sycophantic behavior here, simply insight sharing and reporting, but with a very soft and intuitive, almost conversational approach. So the welcome state introduces the assistant, and the ask state gives the user a question surface, and the result state returns a gentle insight based on their saved reflections. The positioning matters to me because the assistant should illuminate patterns, not overtake the user's own discernment. And then we move over to one of the final, I guess, closing thoughts for KARMN and the prototype before I share and reveal the flow, is the ethical and accessible design. So KARMN is designed around like privacy, consent, and bounded AI use. Obviously, this is a UI prototype that hasn't even like caught any reflections yet. But the system should protect the user data. It should avoid resale logic at any and all costs. It should try to make the inputs blind to the back end as well. And I've spoken about that before in previous videos, so I won't bog you guys down here. But basically, we should only use saved inputs to improve the user's own reflective experience, ensure that the reflections being returned are reliable, and the entries should be editable, removable, and clearly owned by the users. They should be easily able to delete, and it should wipe out on the back end as well. That's a major sticking selling point, So most importantly, the assistant is intentionally constrained. It should provide insights, not diagnosis. So it should support reflection, not replace human judgment and discernment. So building that kind of a boundary was one of the biggest lessons of this project, and it's probably the hardest thing still, even though, I haven't launched this at all, so more to come. In the end, the biggest gift and challenge of using AI in this process was speed. AI made it possible to move from idea to prototype much faster than I could have on my own. It helped me research, generate, refine, and structure along the way. And it also made it dangerously easy to overbuild and overscope and chase every possible feature to the very end. So one of the hardest parts of this capstone was realizing that if I talked to enough people, I could discover 10 more directions immediately. And that's exciting, but it can also destroy the focus completely. So the real design discipline was choosing one believable use case and getting that through the door clearly. And that leads directly into what comes next. All right, so let's go over the prototype very quickly. Prototype. This is rather exciting. It's the first time I reveal KARMN. So hello everyone, say hello to KARMN. KARMN, say hello to everyone. I'm just kidding, she doesn't talk. This is just a mildly interactive UI created in Figma. But basically, The original intention was some basic iPhone type application, mobile, where you open up your application, you have your three main features here. Your reflect path here is basically the centerpiece, but for the sake of the prototype, we kept it super simple. You can toggle a few of your emotions here: joyful, calm, down, frustrated. I don't know if that's even possible, but yeah, basically you toggle the emotions here. You can just write freely whatever you are reflecting on. And then you can add physical sensations to help provide the LLM context. There you could feel like maybe if you're feeling joyful and calm, but maybe you have racing thoughts, maybe you have some stomach issues, anything that might be useful that's accurate that you're reporting. Then you have your Ask Assistant flow where you have a few preloaded questions. You could ask your own, provide your own insight as well, or you could ask it to provide you one of the already pre-selected choices for you. How has my stress changed this month? What patterns do you see in my mood lately? Are my symptoms connected to specific triggers? What helps me feel calm? We'll add this preset and then set get insight. And here it says your mood tends to dip on weekday mornings. Over the past 2 weeks, I've noticed your reflections show lower energy and heightened anxiety between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Monday through Thursday. This pattern appears connected to sleep quality and your morning routine. Interestingly, your weekend mornings show significantly more calm and reflective states, suggesting that pace and structure play an important role in your well-being. Most common symptom link is tension, and most common mood is anxious weekdays. So, stuff like that. I mean, this is a prototype, so, I promise you guys I'm not dealing with anxiety. Maybe. I'm just kidding now, but yeah, basically this is it. This is the simple flow for KARMN. You can get a dashboard at the end with some fun little insights there that feel kind of HRE but are still very helpful for just understanding trends. It's not ideal to have to create dashboards around this, but at the end of the day, data is just another language to express numbers and ideas. Think of it as an extra layer on top of your existing experiential layer. It shouldn't supersede it. It shouldn't overtake it. It's just extra context. Use it wisely, but use it. In any case, this is the basic prototype UI of KARMN. And I will click out of this, go back over here. So I guess I should leave you all with some closing thoughts about this all, because through the whole process of prototyping a KARMN UI for mobile, it became clear that many target users still prefer physical journals. That insight completely changes the roadmap for me, but in a good way. It suggests that the next feature I built shouldn't be just more digital journaling. It should be a bridge between physical reflection and digital insight. So yeah, I'll leave it with that. I'll provide more and more tidbits on where KARMN is going in future videos. So you guys like, subscribe, stay tuned. Love you all. Cheers.